All right, guys, thanks for waiting around. Welcome back. John, I see you hit your trade. I'm guessing it was the purple one. That purple one just hitting its target too, or something similar. I see you hit your target, so good job. Telu, welcome. Just to kind of touch on your question, best platform feed broker combination. I mean, if I were you, I'd just go with TradeStation. That would be my easiest, most straightforward suggestion. If you're going to use Spotlight or Counterpunch, hopefully Spotlight. I mean, why not use it on the platform that it was created on? I just think you're going to end up doing very well. Now, if you want to trade Forex, you could still use TradeStation charts and then just place your trade with any broker of your choice. Of course, an equally good option, and some people prefer it, would be to go with NinjaTrader, with Kinetic, and any broker like Interactive Brokers or one of the brokers that they suggest. One good thing about Interactive Brokers is that you can trade everything from one account. Yeah, so if you're not interested in Forex, then, you know, what, I don't even know what there's not even a debate in my opinion, because TradeStation will treat you very well. TradeStation will give you the platform free for life for being a Netpicks member. They'll give you $4,500 back in commission rebates, which basically pays for the price of Spotlight Power Trader and then some, or a couple years of the Inner Circle, give or take. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. You could trade directly from the chart. You could set up templates. The automation works really well. There's just a lot of reasons to want to go with TradeStation. Yeah, and John's there, and you got to get them all going. But you could trade everything from one account, and IB is a great broker. I don't know if they're the best, but there's a bundled price. You want to go with a low-cost data feed. TradeStation has some bundled data feeds too. What you might want to do, well, let me ask you this. What strategy are you using? And master account, and it puts a percentage of your trade on sub-accounts. So if you set it up correctly, you could have a master account, place the trade, and have 20% of it go to one and 80% go to the other, or whatever. You can do that with IB. But here's the thing. If you're using NinjaTrader, and this is my experience from the past, whenever there's a software update that one of the two forces upon you, it tends to want to screw things up. I don't know if it's like that anymore. It used to be. Yeah, so Telu, here's the thing. Once you become an owner of one of these strategies, and I would highly encourage you to think hard about Spotlight, we're going to take a look at that in a moment, that's when you get all those TradeStation benefits. And so at that point, TradeStation's a no-brainer. Well, I mean, the data feed that TradeStation offers won't lag if you got a strong internet and you want to use a good computer, get a trading computer, of course. You just want to have great tools. Yeah, SPT, go to Falcon Trading Computers and have them build you a custom computer. It's not expensive. Get a real fast internet, pay extra, and you're good. You're going to be like everyone else in here. Speaking of which, let's start looking at some trades. Just as a side note, you guys hear me say how much I love SubZero, especially because when I'm doing the trade room, I can't always execute the trades I want to execute. So I go to SubZero when I'm done with the trade room. So in the last 20 minutes, I was able to grab a beautiful SubZero trade in the YM, hit some goals, and finish my trading. I have grown very fond of SubZero, as you can tell. KD, are the TradeStation benefits you mentioned only for new customers? No, not for new customers. Well, I mean, look, you have to talk to our contact. So you get on our website, on the Owners Club, whether it be Counterpunch or Spotlight, and you'll get the TradeStation tuition reimbursement information. And you'll contact our guy over there. You got a promo code, and you could talk to him directly, and he could pretty much tell you. I mean, they change it from time to time, but by and large, you get the platform free for life. You have to fund the account. If you've already got an account with TradeStation, he might have you open a new account. So you jump through a few hoops. You just transfer your funds over. I mean, it's not that big a deal considering the benefits you get. So, yeah, Jeff. Anyway, I would recommend doing it, KD, because $4,500 in commission rebates, that's real money. I think it's a 20% rebate. You're going to pay commissions anyway, and TradeStation commissions are definitely competitive. It's like $1 in, $1 out. I know IB is a little less. But after you get 20% back, up to $4,500 over time, there's no real time limit to use it. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer because it pays for Spotlight and 50% more, or a couple years, give or take, in the inner circle. All right, so let's take a peek at what happened here. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Spotlight. And let's just look at the morning first of all, and then we'll kind of review some other things. So you guys already saw kind of the Russell and the YM and how they did. Let's take a look. We'll review it. I like running Spotlight even during the counterpunch session because honestly, I want to try to do some trading. And I created counterpunch. I love it. I use it for crude oil, but I think Spotlight in the end is a superior strategy because I'm able to hit my goals in a cleaner, more straightforward way with minimal trading. Sometimes with counterpunch, there's too many trades. Now, there are a lot of great trades with counterpunch. Counterpunch got the job done quicker today on some of these charts. We saw that. Spotlight, you had to be more patient, but it still got it done in its own way. So with the Russell, the first short trade, unfortunately, was a losing trade. And then you had a filtered out trade because of the squeeze zone. Would have been a break-even trade. And then your third trade was a short trade that was a break-even trade. So you're still a little bit behind schedule here, right? You got the one loss and a break-even. The losing trade lost 24 ticks. So then you get the long trade. This is the third trade. And that one went 25 ticks. So, I mean, I don't know, call it a wash. So if you stop right there, you're stopping with a break-even session, give or take. Now, the other thing is that you'll notice that the key level adjustment's a little bit different on this chart than the one I showed you on Counterpunch. Counterpunch, the key level adjustment, adjusted this stop above the key level to 1625.1. And that's a viable choice. You can certainly make that choice and set your calculator up to do that on the Russell. I rather do it manually if I'm going to do it at all. I personally think that when you get to target 1 and beyond, 20 ticks is a good sized trade. I want to protect my position. I would have ended up stopping out with 1 tick in this case. But some of you might, decide to keep a few ticks of risk on the trade, work around the key level, in which case you would have worked your way all the way down and had a nice winner here. But it's still not enough. You'd still need another trade, and the blue trade would have been your power of quitting trade. All right, the way I would have traded it, I would have stopped out with the 1 tick. So then I would have needed another trade here, and it would have been the yellow one. And that one gets all the way up. And so it's just, staying with everything. And power of quitting achieved, right? You guys see that. There might have been a couple variations to how one got the power of quitting. All right, Telu says, so they'll give you the full bonus amount even if you haven't spent that with Netpicks. Well, yes, if you get a Netpicks product like Spotlight or Inner Circle or whatever, you're going to get their commission rebates up to $4,500. That's correct. and the platform free for life. So it's a pretty sweet deal. Now, like I said, they're changing things. We don't work for TradeStation, but that's been the long-standing deal. You'll have to talk with our guy over there, Mitchell Field, just to confirm what the current offer is. But from what I've heard, it is that. It hasn't changed. Maybe it changed this morning. I don't know about it, but I doubt it. Bob says, Troy, if possible, would you please go through a step-by-step process placing a chart trade with Spotlight with the YM? Yes. Yeah, I'll do that. Good question. And there are videos on that too, and I'll show you where they're located. But I'll do it for you. Jeff, what is the momentum bar set on the RTY? It's an 8-tick. So on the Russell, on a TradeStation, it's 0.8, right? It's 8 ticks. And every tick is 0.1. On NinjaTrader, it would just be an 8 range bar. John says Falcon has had a similar deal with TS. Yes, if you were to have Falcon build you a custom trade computer, they also have a TradeStation deal. I don't know that you'd get 2 deals, though. Tell it, John, will TS let you double up? I doubt it. I doubt it. Man, you're a high maintenance guy, Tello. You're asking for the world. I don't blame you, though. Why not? Ask for the world. The worst case scenario is they give you half the world. All right, let's continue. So crude oil we saw was tough this morning, right? Because it was just really range bound and tight. But let's go back and relive it together. Quite often on a Wednesday crude oil day, the early part of the session is kind of crappy in front of a 3-day weekend too. But let's see if we got the power of quitting, because this has been a really great plan. I mean, there's only been like 1 or 2 losing sessions since the June contract, and now we're in the July contract. So this thing has really been winning, and usually very quick. So first trade comes at 9. And unfortunately, we saw that one, right? That was a losing trade. It lost 17 cents. Then there was a second trade, the yellow trade. And that one ground its way up to a small target 2, which was only 9 cents. But then it went even higher. No, it didn't. So 17-cent loss, 9-cent winner, and still trying to get to power of quitting. But now you're up against the crude oil report. And one thing is, when you get after 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. with the range bar into the crude oil report, normally we want to stand down 5 minutes in front of a report. But I've seen so many of these momentum bars in front of the crude oil report that I'm tempted to stand down starting at 10. Because you could hang out, you could be in a trade going into the report, and I don't think that's a good idea. So in my opinion, you're better off just let this be with the 1 winner, 1 loser, and 1 small winner. You're still a little negative, and try to make it up on the crude report. And that one comes out, because look what would have happened. It would have got long here. Well, you would have made an adjustment, so you would have been flat anyway. Then the report comes out. It actually looks like it got short here. But again, you would have adjusted, and you're already 2 minutes in front of the report. So you just don't want to mess with it. Then you wait your 2 minutes, and all this happens in 1 second. Look at all those bars. Look at the timestamp, 10:30, and it doesn't move. That's called the splat of bars. And you see that with range bars, because there's no time. It's just about range. And it's a 12-cent range bar, and you're still in the same second. Look at all those bars all in the same second. This all happened instantly. And then finally, 2 seconds later, this bar prints. Pretty amazing. But we're waiting 2 minutes. This is why. That's a really good illustration, isn't it? Remember when I showed you the 5-minute bar, how that looked? It's quite a different look, isn't it? So you wait 2 minutes, and then you get the yellow trade right here. And it's a little early, but remember, you can get in sync with Spotlight after the news event. So you could take that when it comes back down, and there's your winner. So the crude oil session gets 16 cents to target 2, and it also writes the ship from the earlier two trades. Power of quitting. All right, there's that. Now, I did say how much I like unleaded gas after the crude report. So this is kind of interesting too, because you have this really wonderful trade here, but look when it happened at 9:55. So this would have been a tough one. If you got in on that, you would have been at risk-free by the time the crude oil report came out. There's no way to get it, and then you pick up a beautiful winner if you're still in it. That's kind of risky because it could have went the other direction. And again, you have the splat of bars, not as many, but quite a few. So if you're just waiting then for the very first setup to come, you know, you could do a counterpunch trade. That'd be a green trade. You got the dots. You could see that would have been a counterpunch trade. Or you just wait for your next spotlight trade, which happens to be this green trade, long, different type of green trade. And there's your winner, and it's still going. So unleaded working great after the crude oil report with this beautiful short that was probably not something you'd want to be in unless you actually got in way back here at this time and stayed with it. You know, no risk, no glory, I guess. No guts, no glory. But if, you know, the prudent thing, maybe don't mess with the crude report going into that position with unleaded gas and wait. And there it is. Okay? Still going. So we saw also how the Dowie Mini did. I was trading it this morning, and the first trade, unfortunately, was in the squeeze zone, barely, and it almost would have been a non-trade if the yellow line would have been a tick or two higher. Bad luck. That trade lost 32 cents, or $32, I should say, 32 points. And then the long trade here made 36. So it lost 32, made 36. Your target 2 trader, that's power of quitting. If you're trading multiple positions, you got a third trade, which also came down and hit full target and kept going. So power of quitting in 2 or 3 trades with the YM this morning. Totally different than how Counterpunch got it done. Counterpunch was able to grab some of this move up. Not Spotlight, because Spotlight was looking for totally different things. It almost grabbed this long trade. But the proximity of our 3 dots to the moving average was 1 tick too far. Again, missing by inches, and sometimes it's just luck of the draw. There is luck involved with trading. Swings both ways. You cannot be too concerned about stuff like that. No way to control it anyway. Yes, unleaded is a 0.002, which is a 20 tick. Right, Jeff? Since there's 4 digits in the quote. That is correct. It's a 20 range on Ninja. So the ES, the 987, I also like the 1.5 point momentum bar. But let's look at the tick chart because we don't look at those very often. So it kind of got in a different sort of way, similar to what happened with the other E-minis. The first trade losing, I mean, I guess you could make an adjustment around the double spike to the left. I mean, the only problem with making adjustments on the ES is it's $12.50 a tick. And it would have been a $25 per contract adjustment. But probably worth it because of the double top in here. But we'll just call it a loss. And another thing is you don't even know if you're filled. You didn't even trade through the level, and that's what makes ES difficult. But we'll just say it's a loss. And it lost 12 ticks. That's 3 points. So then you get the second trade, and that one gets 3.25 points. So basically a wash to target 2. Of course, look at the perfect target 4. Probably not filled on that either, but a great trade. So let's just say you're at break even, give or take, and you need one more setup. No shorts in here. It just doesn't happen. You don't get overbought at all. and instead you end up with the yellow trade right in here, and that gets the business done. So that third trade, yet again, power of quitting. Now, if you need 3 trades to get the power of quitting, you are achieving the goal of the spotlight, aren't you? To be able to quit your session with a positive result while controlling your drawdown with minimal and efficient trading. 3 trades to get it done is very efficient. Oftentimes we get it done even less. Today took 3 trades. And then there's really not much else to speak of after. I guess we could look at the NQ. As you know, I've been following this 4-point momentum bar. I kind of like it. I think it's proven itself now for a number of times, long enough time. So, you know, it looks like that short trade triggered in, except that you'd be adjusting below the 200 moving average on that, and hopefully you're avoiding it. But if not, it's a loser, and then that's a loser. But really, that green trade, you got to make an adjustment. Then you get the nice winner here. So that one loses 34, but then the yellow trade makes 67. And even if you got caught up in the green trade, that lost 31, and 34 is still 65. So break even if you caught all 3. And then the blue trade just happened and missed target 2 by 1 tick, and you better make that a power of quitting trade. So once again, pretty efficient. Pretty efficient, getting it done. On the Euro Yen, 8:30 start time. Got some nice movement this morning. So the first trade was back in here and it was too soon. So that one kind of left the station ahead of the bell for us. So the next trade is that one, which is a perfect trade at 917, and look at it hit all the way up through target 3. So Spotlight Power Trader with a 15 target 2 and a 20 pip target 3. We're going to ignore target 1. It's only 9 pips. Got to remember that part of the trade plan. Also, for those of you trying to learn Spotlight, Steve Hammer, you still in the room with us? Yes, you are. Hopefully you're listening. You see the magenta bar right there? We were talking about the crossover filter. Well, when the yellow EMA crosses over the 200, then we start counting 20 bars before we can take a short trade. And that magenta bar is the 20th bar. Now, what I showed you on the Russell earlier, I changed the setting from 20 to an 8. So then it was only counting 8 bars. And then that was the magenta bar. So the magenta bar is what marks the final bar of your filter. That's why that green trade became valid. But from our point of view, it's not valid because the trade plan already hit its goals and we're done. So we don't even take it. But look at how it worked anyway. Look at it, target 2 perfectly after that 20th bar. You might say, yeah, it stopped in reverse, but not really because you put an adjustment on there, be it 06. And it never got to 06. It only got to 035. So it would have stayed short. Just pointing that out to you. So Euro Yen, one and done. And then the Pound Aussie, you can see the crossover again here. So the Pound Aussie also starting at 8:30. The Pound Aussie has been like zebra stripes for a while now. And it did get the short trade here at 8:37, and it didn't go far enough because target 1's only 6 pips. We don't take anything less than 10 pips. So that's going to be a small loss, 13 pips plus spread. Just a crappy chart, but even with the crappy bars, it's actually been winning a lot. So then you get the second trade here, and you still have to skip target 1. It's only 9 pips, so you start at target 2 taking profit, and it's able to get target 2 for 15. And you know, you got to take profit at target 3 when you miss by a hair. You might not get the full profit, but you got to at least get profit somewhere in between target 2 and target 3 somewhere in there, and that should be power of quitting, hopefully. And if not, you have one more trade, but that one's probably too small. Well, it's 11 pips to target one, and that one also missed by a hair. So, you know, hopefully you got positive or close to it. But that's all she wrote. If you needed one more trade, it's happening right there. 15 pips to target two, and missing that one by a hair also. So this is one of those days where the pound Aussie missing by fractional, you know, a fraction of a pip. And that's one of the things with Forex is you have to pay attention, because if you're missing by a fraction, it's time for you to jump in there and take action. Don't fight over a fraction of a pip. That's close enough. All right, Stephen, good. Glad you got it. All right, you could also turn the filter off, and then you could all, you know, play with it and see how that works. Okay, so that's a good look at a bunch of Spotlight stuff, and I'm assuming you guys want to look at some SubZero also, right? So now that we have the calculator, makes it pretty easy. Got a SubZero workspace desktop over here. So the trade I just took when I was on pause between sessions was that one. So lucky me, I noticed it was setting up right at the moment that I had said to you guys I'll be back shortly. And I was able, I didn't grab it at 13 because when I saw it, it had already stabbed down to 12. So then I put my order in at 11. And I went in with a bracket order. This is what Bob asked me to show you how I did it. I went in with a bracket order. And the bracket order is a template where I have 2 targets and 2 stops in the same location. So I'm able to slide my stops up to these dots, and I'm able to slide my targets. I usually go to target 2 and target 3, or I'll go to target 2 and I'll trail. Sometimes I'll go 2 positions to target 2. A lot just depends on what I'm doing in my schedule and if I'm distracted or whatever. In this case, I went to target 2 and target 3. But even if I wanted to trail, I could have just deleted one of the targets, and I would have had 2 stops and 1 target. And so when it comes down and hits target 2, then one of the stops disappears, and the other one I would slide down and start locking in. Well, I would have slid them both down when it hit money management, but you get the idea, right? So I took target 2 and target 3. It was a good move and a nice trade. So one of the things I like about chart trading is that you can catch these trades, and with momentum bars, you don't want to waste time. I do have the matrix also handy if I need it. Sometimes I'll use it. So there is a long now on the Russell, and as you know with SubZero, you could take a trade in one direction, and if it loses, you could take one trade in the opposite direction. This would be a stop and reverse. I would definitely adjust it a little bit, probably below the 50. I wouldn't go all the way down below the 200. It's too big of an adjustment. I want to try to stay long, but respect that the market could be turning. And the adjustment's already on there. So it's an adjustment that's even further than the adjustment that's already on there. Respecting that 50 moving average that could be support. So that's a SubZero trade. There really weren't any others on the Russell today. You almost had some. You did get one in the pre-market. That was tempting. I was up early. That was really tempting. It got to money management and then stopped out. It actually started with a short trade that lost. But again, pre-market is not a time I'm typically trading. So remember, you could take a trade in one direction, and if it gets to money management, it's considered successful and the setup is over. Or if it loses, you flip to the other side and take one trade in the opposite direction, and then it's over. So you'll notice that it was at SubZero and it came above and then went back below SubZero again. So normally you'd get another setup, but the reason why you don't is because the way the code is written, if you're in an active trade, it's not going to look for another setup. It's going to wait for it to go back up and back down again. And it did go back up, but it never went back down. until now. So you say, well, how come there's not a setup here? And the reason why is because if you look at the reading here, it's not minus 20. It missed by 1 tick, which is, you know, unfortunate. If you understand the strategy, you might not split hairs and you could draw the trade and take it. Would have been pretty good. But instead, it had to wait for the first valid setup after the SubZero, and it happened here. So that's the trade. And by the way, any shorts would be canceled, and you'd still be in the long trade. And that's a valid SubZero setup. It's still going. We'll keep an eye on it. Some crude trades here. This is also, well, that's through the report, so not really interested in that. But this was really, well, let's see. So you had the pre-market one, and that was a nice winner, but it was pre-market. This is also pre-market, right? It's kind of tricky when it's flip-floppity around, and that could happen in consolidation. So with something like this, maybe you're adjusting around the swing level, which is always prudent if it's 1 to 3 ticks, and end up getting short instead. But again, it's pre-market. Well, no, actually it's not. This is at our start time. So, you know what? Unfortunately, that's just a losing sequence no matter how you slice it, because it never gets to money management. I got money management set at 10 ticks, not 8 ticks. Well, maybe it is 8 ticks, actually. In this case, it looks like 8 ticks. Regardless, it loses. Then you have this nice trade, but that's right at the crude report, so it doesn't count. So there's not a lot of SubZero going on. You finally get, well, that's still within the same 1 second. So that doesn't count. None of this counts. You're only 20 seconds after the report. So now, you know, a few minutes have passed, and now this happens. So that's really the SubZero setup of the day, and it gets to full target, although it's not a very big one. It's only 10 ticks. Gets there and hits it right on the nail. You know, these trades are adjusting to market conditions. So not a whole lot on crude today. Yesterday, if you look at crude yesterday, there were just, it was a beautiful session. Yesterday we were doing the training, and there were a lot of good ones. Right at 9, first trade of the day, break even. Second trade, another break even. Third trade, full target winner. Fourth trade, stops and reverses with a tiny little loss and then a full big winner. So it worked out really nicely yesterday. And then there's that one. So SubZero was like on it yesterday with crude. And then it avoids the long and gets short, and that one misses full target by 1 tick. And then you get this near the end of the day. I mean, that's what SubZero is supposed to do. Any chance we can get this SubZero version 2.0 workspace? I mean, there's not really a lot to it, Paul. It's just basically default. All I do is turn the key level on, except for the quarter point ticks. Like I don't use key levels on NQ, and I don't use key levels on ES. I do turn on the stop and reverse adjustment, but that's probably on already. And that's it. Yeah, I mean, pretty easy. You might decide to go with a 10-tick money management instead of an 8-tick money management for crude oil. That's a personal preference. You could choose that or not. But look at all the winners on it. It was just a really nice session. All right, so there's that. The YM. That's the one I took. And there was one I tried to take, but I thought my chart was set up for it, and I realized because of the training yesterday, I turned off chart trading, and I missed this setup. That's the setup I was hoping to get, and by the time I got my chart right and placed it, it never pulled back down to my entry. And there, so 2 SubZero beautiful winners on the YM today. At least I grabbed one of them. Let's keep looking at a few more, and then I'm going to answer Bob's question. So on unleaded gas, this was through the crude report. Unfortunately, couldn't really get it. I think we might have, did we look at it already? There was this pre-market trade, and I almost grabbed that too because I was up at that time, but I'm like, I better stay disciplined, even though these trades usually win. I mean, look at it way back here. It was a great trade, pre-market, but it took a long time. I mean, the setup's at 721. By the time it hits target 3, it's 842. That's an hour and a half practically. Gotta love SubZero. All right, gold. Gold did very well. Also, gold's another good one. It's slow, but it works with SubZero, the 6-tick momentum bar. Bill keeps telling us with his Spotlight Power Trader plan, he keeps hitting new equity highs. He doesn't use SubZero on that, I don't think, but if you wanted to, you could. Look at this long trade here, and then that one. In the pre-market, you want to trade real early, 5 in the morning. It's like 2 in the morning my time. Look at that one. I mean, you just keep going back and you just keep seeing winner after winner after winner. This gold chart works really nice. You just got to be patient. We haven't found a losing trade yet. A few break evens. Still no loser. Still going back. Even that one wins. You get the idea. Some charts just really fit the SubZero setup like a glove. The NQ. The NQ was a little noisy yesterday. You can see here a break even, the most current trade. Didn't do so well yesterday, but look at today. That's in the pre-market. Again, I was looking at that and I'm like, Well, the first trade lost and then it missed money management by 1 tick or something like that. Then it flips over and gives you the big winner. But that's pre-market. So there's only been one setup today, and it just happened now. That's last night. Want to trade in the evening? Not sure I recommend it, but it's hard for me not to recommend it because I keep seeing these winning SubZero trades. Do we use a continuous chart? I think you should always use the contract, Bill. I mean, if I'm showing the continuous chart, it's just because of convenience for me. But you always want to, especially if you're going to trade from your chart, you can't trade from a continuous chart. So definitely use the contract one. Another money management on the NQ. That was yesterday afternoon around lunch. Then you had a couple here. This is what losers look like. Finally, some losers. They happen once in a while. I actually like this chart on the NQ. It does very well. But let's face it, worst case scenario would be 2 losers in a row. It happens, but the first loss is cut in half. So you, instead of stopping out way down here, but it's destined to lose 2 in a row in that particular sequence. All right, so now Bob wants to talk about placing a trade with Chart Trader, so I want to do that next. I'm going to go to sim mode because I'm already done trading, and then that way I can kind of mess around and show you how it's done. Telu. So is SubZero a set of filters, parameters that we turn on when we want to trade that strategy? No, it's a separate calculator that comes with Spotlight. It is a Spotlight Power Trader setup, but it's not in the Spotlight calculator. It's got its own unique calculator. So you would use it on a different chart because it'll often be in conflict and it won't always be the same trades. So that's a good question. Here's the way I use the two. With Spotlight Power Trader, I use a formal trade plan with a start time, stop time, X amount of trades that I've tested well, that I believe in, that I've seen it, I've lived through it, I've experienced the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, over and over and over, sticking with the rules. I could fast test it and prove. I can quit most sessions positive, with minimal trading, controlling my drawdown, right? And I go through all the back testing and all the steps that I teach in the training. That's what I call a formal trade plan, and that's what I use Spotlight for. SubZero is unique. The setup itself is the trade plan. 1 or 2 trades, that's it. It's a unique trade of opportunity that happens randomly. You can see it coming. You can know when it's coming. You can watch that green line when it gets below the -20. You know there's going to be a setup. So that's another good thing about it. But I don't have a trade plan beyond just there's a trade, take it. Now you might eventually learn as you trade more and more. Certain times of day maybe aren't as effective as others with certain charts. I've noticed midday is when you usually get your 2 losses in a row on the YM, for example. That happened yesterday even. But by and large, you learn as you go, but the trade plan is the trade or the 2 trades. That's it. So what I love about it is if I'm unable to execute my formal trade plan, or the formal trade plan just is one of those days it doesn't get positive, then I could use SubZero on a number of charts. All the ones that we're looking at here are all good to trade. And there are others. And so that's how I use SubZero. So you put the 2 together, and it's kind of hard. Like, you have to really try hard to have a losing session. That doesn't mean you won't have one, but it really helps you get positive on most sessions. So one of my personal goals is to try to add 1% equity to my account every day. You know, give or take. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but somewhere in that 1% range. And so sometimes I deviate from the actual chart dots. I'm just looking to grab an extra $100 or 200 or 1,000. It depends on what account I'm trading. But the point is that I'm looking to get to that 1%, sometimes even more than getting to the full target in certain situations, because I might have to run off and do something. Life happens, right? We all have that. Life happens. So SubZero is really good for that. Most of the time I stay disciplined and go to the targets. A vast majority of the time. But every now and then I'll just scalp out and grab that 1% growth in my equity. And I can walk away and feel good about the session and get to all the busy stuff I got to deal with. So each to his own, right? It's important that you all do your own personal self-analysis and create something that works for you. But stick to the strategy goals of growing your account a vast majority of your sessions with minimal drawdown. Not over trading. Because like this, you can hit your financial goals. And the reason for trading is to hit your financial goals. Because if you hit your financial goals, you become a free person. You're free. Fire your boss, live where you want, do what you want, right? So stay on point with the overall theme. It's so easy to get off of that and to deviate off of that and to have all these convoluted reasons for trading that you might not even understand, but they're motivating you to do stuff that's harmful. There's no other reason to trade other than to grow your equity. So do it on a steady basis and let the power of compounding do the heavy lifting over time. The same trades I'm taking now, a year from now, probably have 10 times the size, or as large as a particular market can handle. That's why I think eventually learning how to trade the ES is a good idea, because you can get larger. Anyway, all right, let me help Bob here. Let's take a look at what's going on. Maybe I'll just go back to Spotlight so that we can see if there's a setup. Don't really have one there either. All right, so Bob and anyone else interested, what you need to do is right-click on your chart. Then turn on chart trading. And when you do that, a little panel will open on the right. Now you have to ask yourself, how many contracts or positions am I going to trade? Well, for me, it's 2. So I'm going to put a quantity of 2. Now I might do 4, I might do 6. Again, it just depends. But just the standard approach, we'll just start with 2. All right? Because then that way you can go to a target 2, and you could do whatever else you want with the other position. You could trail, you can go to a bigger target, you can go to target 1. It's up to you. Probably wouldn't recommend target 1, but sometimes target 1 works. Like yesterday, when there's chop and no range and no follow through, maybe target 1 is the way to go. Telu, you're welcome, and I'm glad you're paying attention because those are some of the most important aspects. Most people like go, yeah, there he goes, lecturing us again. What do the dots mean, right? Well, anyone can paint by numbers, but not anyone can be a true artist. There's learning technique, and then there's learning how to trade with the technique. And you're thinking about strategy, which is more important, right? These are just tactics. Strategy is how you achieve your goals. That's really important. That's why you want to stick with the theme. All right, so I've turned this on. The next thing is you want to attach OSO. That means order sends order. What that means is that when you put a buy order in and the price hits the buy order, it's going to send the targets and the stops. And those will be attached by what's called OCO, order cancels order, so that when one of those gets hit, it automatically cancels the other. Also known as a bracket order, because it's all bracketed. It's all connected. All right, so quantity 2, attach OSO, and now we have to get our exit right. Once you have this set up, you could save it, and then you don't need to do it anymore. So if you're going to go with 2 positions, then you want to choose 2L, 1S. That's 2 limit orders and 1 stop order. The stop order could be 2 targets, 2 stops at the same location. All right, 2L, 1S. Once you do that, you want to click on these 3 dots here, and then you want to set your template up. And so you can see each position, 2 positions. So you have your limit as your target. I set it to 20 ticks, and I set my stop to 20 ticks. And on the second position, I set my limit to 25 ticks because then my targets are offset, which makes them easier to move, separate from each other. But my stop is at 20 on both because my stop is going to be in one place. I'm not putting 2 stops in 2 locations. So you got your 2 stops at 20 ticks away, and then 1 target at 20 ticks and 1 target at 25 ticks. Now that's usually enough time for you to be able to move them to the location they need to go. Before I hit OK, though, I want to set as default and then hit OK, because then any other chart I open up will have the same template, the same bracket. Okay? Don't worry, Bob, I'm recording this session, so if I'm going too fast, you'll have the ability to listen to it again. So I hit OK. I don't really need to change anything else except this. I want to click on this little gear wheel. I want to click on Order Settings tab and make sure that this bottom button is chosen, where I can move all my orders at the price of the clicked line. If you have the top one clicked, when you go to move your stop, remember there's 2 stops. They're in the same location. It'll only move one of them. It won't move them both together, and that's a nuisance. And it costs you time and will make mistakes. You'll end up, making an error. You want to move your stops together. So make sure that bottom button is clicked, set as default, hit OK. Incidentally, if your targets are in the same location, it will move those together also, but don't forget I offset them. One was 20 ticks and one was 25 ticks. So it solves that problem. Are you with me so far? Let's say I want to get long and I see that there's a possible long here. For whatever reason, I draw it with my handy dandy tool just to have a trade that we can count on here. And 2 ticks above that's 24. Key level adjust would be 26, and I want to get long at 26. So I take my mouse, I find 26, And whoops, that's 28. And then to go long, I'm going to control click, and to go short, I have to go alt click. So I'm going to control and then click, left click. And now the trade is placed. The stop is 20 ticks below, and they're two stops. I could put more space on there so I could see it by going to Format Window and space it like, I don't know, 5. That'll give me more room on the margin. Now I could see it, see the two stops. So I just grab them because of that radio button I connected, and I can just slide it right to the level it needs to go. Those 3 dots, for example, 92. And I could put my targets up here. I could put one target at 64 and one at 78, for example. So I'll take that one and go to 78. Look at on the right-hand margin, it shows 78, you see? So on the next one, I'll move that to 64, and it shows 64. And so now I have a bracket order. Order sends order, OSO, that I attach, right? So when this gets triggered, then these gray ones will turn color. They'll be green and red. That means they're active. Right now, these handles, these are called handles, right? The other sides of the bracket are not active. They're pending. They become active when the entry gets hit. So let's see if it does that. What if I want to trail? What if I don't want to go to target 3? What if I want to go to target 2 and trail? There, see how they became active? I guess they're all red, but they're colored now. The entry went away, and these are active. And you go, you know, I think I'm the trail. This might be a home run trade. My testing shows it, whatever. You can click on this. Notice when you click on it, you can see it's activated. I could hit the delete button on my keyboard, and now it's gone. But notice I still have 2 stops. That's what I want, because I still have 2 positions. I have 1 target, 2 stops. So if it comes up and hits money management, I will move both stops up and lock in 1 tick. If it goes up further and hits my target 2, one of my stops will go away. The other stop will still be there, and I'll just keep pushing it higher and higher and higher and use it to trail. You see? What if I want to put in a stop and reverse, the dreaded stop and reverse? Well, you want to practice that over and over until you can do it in your sleep, left-handed, standing on your head. All right? You don't want to be afraid of stop and reversals. You just need to know how to execute it. Let's say by chance there's a stop and reverse that happens to be at 24.09, 24.709. I can move this up to 24.709, and then I could click on it again with the Alt key, and now I just put in a stop and reverse. I have to push my stop on the short up to where it would go. I've got to push my targets on the shorts where they would go. If it hits this 709 number, it's going to flatten the long trade and get me short. What if you want to cancel? What if the stop and reverse goes away and this starts moving higher and you want to get rid of that short trade? Well, that's when I use the matrix. I mean, you could fiddle around and learn how to do it on your chart, or you can just come to the matrix, which I also have set up pretty handy here, right? And I can just left click and I can cancel the one that says sell 2, like so. And now that stop and reverse is canceled. That's how I do it. It's pretty easy. Maybe the stop and reverse was a good idea. Whoops, I moved the wrong. I meant to move the matrix and I moved my chart. Nice to have multiple monitors. And that is a short now, and coincidentally it is. Well, it's at 12, which means 09 would have been the stop and reverse. How ironic. So I just hit Alt. I'll go a little bit below that bar now to make it push lower. And I can place my short trade like so. I can move that to the stop level. I can move the shorts to the target level. The targets to the target level. If it's off a tick, I can grab it and move it up a tick. When it hits, it might create a little bit of slippage. If that happens, these lines will move a little. I might have to readjust them. I wish that TradeStation didn't do that, but it does. No big deal. And that's basically how you do it. And you know what? It is a reversal. It's funny that you should say that, Jeff, because the long trade that I chose was a SubZero long trade. And now there's a possible stop and reverse on SubZero as well. And it did just get short. And notice that everything shifted down because of the slippage. That pesky slippage. So I just got to now move it back up a little. I'm not that concerned about getting perfect on my entries with SubZero. You'll notice I make little adjustments here and there. The trade's big enough to absorb those. Every now and then it saves me a losing trade, which is great. So the other thing is, look here, you can see your open P&L. So you can watch that while it's happening. You do have a reversal button you could use for stop and reverses, if that's easier for you. Again, you don't have to be perfect. Notice the money management, that itty bitty little dot that you can hardly see. I like to drop a horizontal line on it, and I have to turn off snapping. Drop a horizontal line on it, and I put an alarm. So when it hits it, I know time to move my stop. So I could double click or right click on the line. It opens it up. You can go to alerts, enable alert, set some sound that you like, and then when it happens, or pop up or both, like it just hit money management, it's going to alert you and tell you. So now you just grab your stop and push it down and lock in your one tick. I got in at 09, so I put it at 08. And actually, I got in at 07 because of the stupid slippage. So maybe at this point, I'll go to 06 now, just because it's gone far enough. It's gone like almost halfway or more to target 2. So I don't want to pay commission if I lose. It's barely missing target 2. I have to decide if I want to take some profit or not. So I have my matrix. I could easily scale out with one tick. With my matrix, I've got single market orders right here. So I could just buy one. I'd have to cancel the target like this, and then just buy at the market one. And now I just bought one, and I have one left. But don't forget, I got 2 stops still. So I have to cancel one of these, and I don't know if it's the one that's attached to this or not. But now I have 1 stop and a target 3, because I scaled out just to show you how easy that was. Because I don't want to fight over one tick, although I'd probably be patient in this case, and I would have hit my full target. Right? So I got 1 stop. I'm not sure it's attached because I canceled one of the 2, not sure which one. So if the target gets hit and I still have the stop, I just delete it. You just have to pay attention and don't accidentally leave a stray order hanging out there. All right, Bob. Well, now you know. I'll put this recording on the Owners Club. Now you've seen how it works. I'm just going to hit close. I got to go too, so let me just say, is there any more questions before we end this? Hopefully that was helpful. Thank Bob for the great question. You know, trading with this kind of structure where you got a proven trade plan, you got these great high percentage setups, you have the skills and the techniques to prove it to yourself first, to be the CEO of your own business, to really do this right so that you're just not some guy, some random person taking random trades at the whims of randomness of the markets. That never ends well. Like this, you have structure with a proven plan that you can get measurable results, helps you stay disciplined. You have a principle and a concept to lock into on why you're trading in the first place. All the pieces you need to be successful are here. It's just a matter of doing it. That's all. Glad you enjoyed it, Steve. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Everyone have a really great Memorial Day weekend. There will not be a trade room on Monday, and I cannot promise I will be here on Tuesday. So what I will say is I'll be here on Wednesday, and most likely I'll do a session on Thursday as well, because the crude oil report will be on Thursday. So I think next week we'll do Wednesday, Thursday. I'll post some announcement. All right? Enjoy your time off, everybody. See you next time.